Packaging Technology Today Thought Leader Interview Series. I'm your host, Vicky Castori. The packaging and processing industries are facing a persistent and pressing challenge, a workforce gap that's growing wider every year. In fact, in 2025, 95% of the respondents to a PMMI survey said they were struggling to find skilled operators and technicians. But the industry isn't standing still. In this episode, we will explore how training, innovative technology, and OEM support are closing the workforce gap. Our guest today is Jorge Izquierdo, Vice President of Market Development at PMMI, the Association for Packaging and Processing Technologies. Jorge is also the author of the 2025 PMMI report, Inside the Workforce Gap. Jorge, thank you for joining me.
Vicky, thank you very much for having me in this program today. I think it's a very interesting topic. Many times when you talk about workforce, you think, oh, it's an HR issue. It's just a hiring problem, and I think in this case, it's well beyond that. It's I think it's certainly affecting uptime, productivity, certainly training, machine design, even. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you. It really is a critical issue, and it's something I hear about, every day when I'm interviewing packaging thought leaders. And so, to start, can you give our listeners a little bit of context and summarize the primary labor challenges affecting the packaging industry based on your study, and why most businesses anticipate the workforce gap to continue to widen?
Yeah, absolutely. During our research, what we did, we surveyed a significant amount of people responsible for processing and packaging operations here in the US. And what we find out, it's pretty much everybody, like 95% of end users are telling us that it's difficult to find skilled operators or technicians. Uh, and that is pretty much a kind of a clear signal of the size of the problem, and when you're looking ahead, when we are asked them, looking ahead and what's your expectation about this problem for the next 3 to 5 years, 60% told us, confirm, it's going to keep being difficult, maybe even more difficult than now. So this is a long-term issue, that needs to be addressed beyond what is just an HR problem. It's again, it's a whole system issue that needs to be addressed with all the tools at hand.
When I was reading your report, it mentioned operational pain points that PMMI members and industry partners are really focused on solving. And which ones are the hardest to crack?
So the pain points that kind of raise to the top are kind of very practical, and starting from the most critical one, it's downtime, followed by errors, changeovers, daily line operation troubleshooting, and just general maintenance of the lines. These are areas where the workforce gap is showing up the problems in the plant floor. It is one of those things that having an open position on paper, it's one thing. Having your line down because of these problems, it's a different thing. As has very significant impacts for the not just the productivity but the profitability of the company. In our report, 60% of the end users said that they are seeing more frequent downtime due to lack of skilled operators. So they are more frequent. They are having a much more significant impact. So it's interesting. In many cases, companies are looking at investments in automation, looking for ways to increase productivity. And when they do that, now they need to pay a very, very close attention to how this automation is integrates with their current workforce, with their current reality, and how these new technologies can sustain productivity uh, with these limitations, I guess, or realities, rather than limitations, I would say realities of workforce.
One thing that you mentioned when you first started answering the question was troubleshooting. And the report found that troubleshooting is one of the most difficult capabilities to replace when experienced workers leave. How can organizations capture and preserve their institutional knowledge?
So you're absolutely right. One of the big problems that we're facing is experienced operators are the ones that are retiring, kind of leaving the company. And in many cases, the troubleshooting that the ability to troubleshoot the line comes from a lot of experience. And many of those things are things that they learned, that they have on their heads, but it's not documented on paper. So it's really hard to pass on those troubleshooting capabilities, to the new generation of operators. So it is these informal troubleshooting steps, kind of all these workarounds, all the experience that they have with these legacy systems, the process intuition that that it's hard to pass on and to document. In the survey that we conducted, 67% are telling us that informed troubleshooting steps that are not formally documented have the greatest impact when somebody leaves the company. So I guess one of the first steps really to avoid these problems is to formally document all these processes. And it doesn't need to be really complicated, actually. In this case, as you know, there are many tools that can support knowledge management. What is key is to be able to collect all this data. So the first recommendation here is make sure that you have a kind of unstandardized, simple way to collect this data. Uh, Whenever there's a problem on the line, whenever the line stops, make sure that you have some type of standardized way of reporting it, that it's easier to manage, maybe through different learning systems, through AI, through different tools. But the key is to make sure that all this information is available for these technologies.
And speaking of technology, how are advances in technology, simplifying this process and changeovers and human machine interface is evolving? What have you learned in that area from speaking to subject matter experts?
So the most helpful advances that we have found are the ones that shift the complexity away from the operator kind of memory uh, and transform them into clear workflows, right? And as you were suggesting, changeover is a good example. These days, with all the SKU explosion, changeovers is just a way of living in many companies, many times more than one, two changeovers a day. If you cannot conduct a changeover quickly in an efficient way, the losses in productivity are significant. So changeovers involve multiple adjustment points, different settings, steps, and safety checks. So if that knowledge is not should not be only in the head of the operator, they should be documented properly. A good way to do this comes to in terms of technology. A good help is via the HMIs. And HMIs that they are easier, they are more intuitive and easier for the operators to follow. That in fact the language of the HMIs it's more like kind of like not so technical, but more like easier for the operators to understand, more like everyday language, as close to as possible. So it's easier for them to understand, to follow step by step, and confirm that the adjustments that they are doing are the correct ones in the right sequence. um, Make sure that they are using consistent terminology, take advantage of all of pictures, color coding, machine-specific guidance, rather than generating instructions. So we find many times uh, terminology can be different from one plant. Forget about one company to the other, from one plant to the other, from one shift to the other. So making sure that operators have the same base of terms, based consistent language. As they document processes, they develop key instructions, standards of operations to train their staff.
All very helpful. And then, one thing I find interesting about your report is that automation is often framed as a replacement for human labor in the industry, but you present a more nuanced view. How is automation emerging as a workforce augmentation strategy?
I love the way you presented. Uh, Certainly, the problem of the industry is to find enough people, right? Here we're not talking about replacing people with equipment. It's just finding enough people to keep the equipment running. So it's more about how to augment people capabilities, how to help them get the right resources, access the right information at the right time. In many cases, it's simple things like if there's a problem in one specific part of the machine, making sure like there's like a QR code that an operator can scan and get access specifically to uh, what are the key steps to troubleshoot and address the problem exactly there. So it's more about providing the operators with those tools. And I'm talking about as simple as a QR code, uh, short videos, provide the right training. In many cases, uh, training for operators, they are very broad, very long. Many times it's a lot of technical detail. In many cases now, what's happening, they're shifting from those very broad and deep kind of trainings to much more focused training, right? It's how to start up, how to set up, changeovers, so much more specific, much shorter, much more video format available for them. So when they need to perform that task and they have doubts, they can immediately access that information, access those resources uh, at the plant floor without the need of calling anybody else, have it available at their fingertips. And if they have a problem, have the option to access maybe via remote resources, maybe a technician from the OEM, or maybe some internal resource, somebody from their maintenance department, right? But access them remotely, make it more fluid, and address and solve the problems quickly.
You've like read my mind for my next question. I was going to ask you about, what your research revealed about onboarding in particular, and how PMMI and OEMs are improving access to effective tools and training programs.
So onboarding is one of the most important pressure points because it shows how long the workforce gap affects operations. In our survey, our research, we found in many CPGs, in many people responsible for operations, they've learned that it takes normally 3 to 6 months for an operator to gain enough experience to be independent. When you talk about technicians, that can be even longer, right? So the question here is how to make this training shorter, how to make it easier for the operators to own the operation of the equipment sooner, right? And uh, and again, it's a lot of this is how we can provide them with the right information at the right time. Uh, Again, moving away from 1 week training, full-time training, to more like hands-on training, uh, training that it's on demand. I think that's really where the industry is going. Training that it's accessible again via the HMI, videos, QR code, short and specific training. I guess that's where the industry is going. In terms of how PMMI is supporting the industry via training, we have a number of different programs. We have one that's called PMIU and workforce development programs, including certified trainer workshops, and that's for OEMs how to train their own operators. Um, when you're talking about training, normally OEMs rely on their technicians to provide that training. And one thing is having a technician that's capable of fixing a piece of equipment. A different thing is having a technician that is a good trainer. Okay, so there are two different sets of capabilities. So the trick here is how to make a good trainer out of a good technician. And that's one of the things PMS put a significant amount of efforts. We have a number of programs, uh, field service essentials, fundamentals of packaging machinery, mechatronics, troubleshooting. So there's a number of resources available not just for PMI members, but in general for the industry.
Wonderful. And for folks who are attending PACK EXPO International in Chicago this fall or other PMMI events throughout the year, are there opportunities at these events where companies can fill workforce gaps or gain additional training?
So in terms of training, there's a ton of opportunities. Actually, uh, I would say going to the show, maybe for the people responsible for the operations of the equipment, they should be looking at the investment of new equipment. Look at the equipment for sure, look at the supplier, the relationship of the supplier, and how they can provide tools to support their operators. Familiarize with the equipment, how easy to make the changeovers it is, how long does it take. One of the advantages at PACK Expo, you have a immense amount of equipment running on site. So you're able to be in front of the piece of the equipment. In many of the cases, you can see a changeover do live. You can be part of the changeover, how they are doing it live. So you have a very good idea of how user-friendly it is, what type of training it will require, how much time they will need to train on this new equipment. What are the capabilities to support your operators? Do we have remote capabilities? What about their training capabilities? So you need to look at all of these. You need also to be very aware when you're putting together a request for proposal for investment in new equipment to include training as part of this request. I know sometimes it's hard for companies. They make differentiation between capital investment and operation investment, and sometimes training falls on one or the other. But it's just super important, that training is part of their consideration as they are investing in new equipment. Now, talking about opportunities at PACK Expo, we have hundreds of presentations during the show. Many of those talking about education, many of those talking about training, uh, many opportunities for the people responsible for packaging operations to to learn that additional kind of nugget of information that can make a difference in their operations.
Great advice. And before we wrap up, do you have any other advice or resources you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, just, I mean, remind them again, the main advice is to treat this workforce gap as a system issue. It's not a recruiting problem. It's not a training problem. It's a combination of people, process, equipment, design, documentation, technology, and support. It's all of these things together. The way to solve to address this problem, not to solve, but to address this problem is to look at it as a system, at all the different parts and how they can contribute to empower your operators and make them more independent faster. I guess the practical first step would be identify within your operations what are the specific workforce related issues that are creating downtime and identify maybe top one, top two, and concentrate on those, address those. The second recommendation I would give is really be proactive about capturing knowledge before they leave your company. We are finding a significant amount of expert operators and technicians leaving the industry, and they are taking so much knowledge with them. Make sure that you invest time on developing a strategy to keep this knowledge. There are many different ways to do that. There are some are very simple. You don't need to invest huge amount of money to do this. Just create a strategy. Make sure that you're doing something about it. And the third one is make sure that you engage with the OEMs, right? It's many times the engagement with the OEMs, it's an afterthought. It's once you bought the equipment, once it's installed, when it's running and you're having problems with the equipment. Start early. Uh, uh, Work with the OEMs, specifying new machines, ask for kind of model, part of the equipment, kind of a specific training for the specific model that you have on your plant. Make sure that the equipment has HMI guidance. Make sure that there are training videos available. Of course, remote support. Kind of ask for the OEM to help you develop an spare part strategy, and also, develop a post-installation follow-up with the OEMs. I would say though those would be my main recommendations.
Well, you're a wealth of information. Thank you, Jorge, for taking time to share your knowledge with us today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the fall at PACK EXPO.
Vicky, would love to see you in the fall. And just a reminder for your audience, you can actually download the report, have access to the full report, maybe use it as a tool, for developing a program internal to get a little more buy-in from your internal partners. This is available at pmmi.org/business intelligence. And for sure, I would love to see you and all your audience at PACK EXPO International this year.
Thank you so much. You've been listening to Jorge Izquierdo, Vice President of Market Development at PMMI. Please see the links in episode notes to download PMMI's report, and you'll find additional resources on our website at packagingtechtoday.com. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Vicky.